Hello everyone. Am I audible? Please confirm the voice. Please confirm whether I'm audible or not. Good afternoon everyone. All right. Let's begin the session for today. All right. Okay. Let me share the screen. So guys, today we are going to cover a very important topic of economics. It is one of those topics that is the favorite topic of UPSC. One of the favorite topics of UPSC, precisely when you peg it with the banking aspect of the syllabus, it becomes the most important topic in economics. Now, what is the topic that we'll be covering today? We'll have a brief introduction about the topic of monetary policy. Monetary policy. Monetary policy. Now, guys, before we get on to the aspect of monetary policy, what different kinds of monetary policy we have, before getting onto it, we need to know that monetary policy is the policy of the central bank. That is our central bank, precisely Reserve Bank of India, RBI. Now, RBI's policy for the economy is the monetary policy that we are talking about today. But before getting onto the monetary policy, let's first talk about what are the functions of RBI. We know that Reserve Bank of India, initially when it was created after the 1934 RBI Act, Reserve Bank of India was initially a private bank. It was initially a private bank. And it is not the first central bank of the country. Before the Reserve Bank of India, in India, we had the Imperial Bank of India. We had the Imperial Bank of India. This Imperial Bank of India was created in the year 1921, and it served as the central bank of the country. But it had some issues. It did not have some very crucial functions that we wanted it to have. Therefore, instead of giving it more functions, we just created our new central bank by the name of Reserve Bank of India, which initially was set up in the private sector with the initial corpus of 5 crore as capital. But later on, after the independence, Reserve Bank of India was taken over by Government of India, wherein RBI now became the government's bank with 100% ownership of the Government of India. Now, RBI, after the Transfer of our Ownership Act 1948, which was enacted, and then it implemented from 1949, RBI became a government's bank. RBI became a government's bank. Now, it was the central bank of the country, and central bank has some central roles and central functions to play in the economy. And one of those functions, apart from many of the functions it already had, we gave it some very crucial functions. Number one, it is the currency authority of the country. That means it is the authority that issues notes, precisely notes. We know that the currency in India is divided into two. We have the coins that are given by Government of India. We have the notes that are printed by RBI. Now, coins are given by Government of India, Finance Ministry, and notes are printed by RBI. But both of them are circulated and distributed by Reserve Bank of India. So Reserve Bank of India is a currency authority. It has the sole responsibility of the distribution aspect of it, as well as if some ill currency has to be replaced by some new currency, that is also taken up by Reserve Bank of India. It is also Reserve Bank of India is also the manager of Forex. Reserve Bank of India is also the manager of Forex. That means the foreign exchange of the country that is earned because of various sources, the foreign exchange of the country is managed by RBI. Now, we all know what is included in the foreign exchange. Foreign exchange के अंदर क्या-क्या आता है? Foreign exchange के अंदर gold आता है. It includes gold. It includes IMF's SDR. It includes IMF's RTP. Precisely, RTP is kept with the IMF only, but that is part of the Forex reserve. Then it also includes hard currencies. Hard currencies. And what are the hard currencies? We have like the dollar. It is internationally acceptable currency. That is why known as the hard currency. Dollar, pound. We have the Chinese yuan. We have the euro, another hard currency, and the Japanese yen. These are the hard currencies on the planet, and that is all maintained by the Reserve Bank of India. Apart from being the manager of the forex, RBI also provides merchant banking facilities to the government, precisely the state as well as the central government. It is also the lender of the last resort. It is a banker to the government. It is a banker to the banks, and it is also the agency that comes up with monetary policy. It is also the agency that comes up with monetary policy. So you have to understand that monetary policy formulation is only one of the functions of RBI. It's not the entire all function. It is one of the functions of Reserve Bank of India. And RBI, when it comes up with the monetary policy, what is it that RBI wants to achieve when RBI comes up with monetary policy? Now, when we talk about monetary policy, RBI, through its monetary policy, RBI wants to regulate the size and cost of funds in the economy. Now, this is the function, the size and cost of funds in the economy. The size and cost of funds in the economy. Now, ये है RBI का function. Function as the formulator of the monetary policy. Monetary policy लाने का मकसद होता है, you want to regulate the size and you want to regulate the cost of funds in the economy. Now let me dwell deeper into this definition. How do you regulate the size and how do you regulate the cost? और size और cost regulate करने से क्या होगा economy में? Now, when you talk about regulating the size and cost of funds in the economy, size की बात जब की जाती है, size का मतलब overall stock of पैसा, stock of money, stock of funds कितना है economy में. You know that in Indian economy, हमारा total पैसा कितना है, how much money is being created in the economy. That is the size of the funds. When we talk about funds in economics, we talk about money supply. We talk about money supply. तो monetary policy का मकसद क्या है? Monetary policy का मकसद है to regulate the size of money supply in the economy. Money supply कितना है economy के अंदर, उसका size regulate करना है. Regulate करने का मतलब either you can increase the size of money supply or you can reduce the size of money supply. That is the entire aim of regulating the size of funds in the economy. Now, when you talk about money supply precisely, how much is the money supply in the economy? आपको calculate करना है. Fine. So the mistake here done by the students is, जब वो money supply को calculate करना चाहते हैं, all they add is the currency only. They add the currency part of it. But we know money supply में currency is only a part of money supply, and this currency is created by RBI. So there is a general phrase in banking terminology that RBI creates currency, and we know that RBI is the currency authority. But there is another part of money supply that is again created by some agents in the economy, and that is credit. That is credit, and credit is part of money supply. ये भी money supply का हिस्सा है, and credit is created by the banks. Credit is created by the banks. So this phrase goes like this: RBI creates currency and banks create credit, and they both of them create the money supply in the economy. Now money supply आपका currency भी है, credit भी है, and total इनको जब add किया जाता है, that is the total size of money supply. Now, whenever we talk about increasing the money supply in the economy, increasing the size of money supply in the economy, RBI in reality does not have to print currency to increase the money supply. RBI can simply increase the credit to increase the money supply. Money supply बढ़ाने के लिए RBI को currency छपाने की जरूरत नहीं है. Money supply बढ़ाने के लिए RBI को currency print करने की जरूरत नहीं है. RBI can simply increase the credit in the economy, उससे money supply अपने आप बढ़ेगा. Fine. Likewise, if RBI wants to reduce the size of money supply, shrink the size of money supply, RBI does not have to, just burn the currency or just abandon the currency. RBI has to RBI has to reduce the credit in the economy. RBI को credit को कम करना है. Credit कम होगा, money supply अपने आप कम हो जाएगा. Now this is how RBI can reduce or increase the size of money supply in the economy. Now that this is all about the size. The second part is to regulate the cost of funds. To regulate the cost of funds in the economy. That is another important function of monetary policy, to regulate the cost of funds. Now you see, very easy concept. थोड़ा सा इसमें आपको ध्यान लगाना है. You'll be able to understand. Now see, for example, economy में RBI decides to increase the money supply. अब अगर RBI ने money supply बढ़ा लिया, I'm asking you, what will happen to the overall stock of money? The overall stock of money will increase. तो पैसा economy में ज्यादा है. When RBI has increased the money supply, we have money in bulk. Fine, we have money in bulk. We have a lot of money in the economy. And when we have a lot of money in the economy, the money we know is actually governed by the banks in the economy. So banks के पास भी ज्यादा पैसा है. Now banks have a bulk of money in their hands. Now when banks have a lot of money in their hands, banks will lend that money at a cheaper rate of interest, at a low rate of interest. Why will they lend that money at a low rate of interest? Because the banks have a lot of money. They have money in bulk. And when there is huge money supply, RBI has increased the money supply. The money with the bank is in bulk, and that money, that excess surplus money, is given as cheaper loans to the people. So what has happened, when people will take these loans, when people will take these loans at a cheaper and a low cost, we can say that the cost of funds has fallen. The cost of funds has fallen. When the cost of funds will come down, you can see increased lending in the economy, increased investments in the economy, and whatnot. Fine. So if RBI wants to increase the investments in the economy, increase the lending in the economy, RBI will simply lower the cost of funds in the economy. तो फंड कैसे कम होगा? जब मनी सप्लाई ज्यादा होगा. When money supply is high, banks have enough money to lend, and when they have enough money, they lend it at cheaper rates, and cheaper rates pay the lending will increase, reducing the cost of funds in the economy. Now if RBI wants to increase the cost of funds, because of some inflationary pressure in the economy, महंगाई हो रही है, inflation को control करना है, inflation को control करने के लिए RBI will reduce the money supply. When RBI will reduce the money supply in the economy, banks के पास थोड़ा पैसा रहेगा. When banks have less money, they'll increase their rate of interest. Fine, they'll lend money at a higher rate of interest, increasing the cost of funds in the economy, right? Increasing the cost of funds. So simply, when money supply is high, the cost of funds is low. When money supply is low, the cost of funds is high. That is simply what money supply does to the economy as a whole. So that is the monetary policy. It wants to regulate the size and cost of funds in the economy. Is it clear until now? Is it clear until now? Is it clear, guys? Okay, fine. So that was a brief introduction about what money supply is, what monetary policy is. Now see, monetary policy, after the creation of the monetary policy committee, monetary policy initially was given by Reserve Bank only. Now RBI used to come up with the monetary policy twice a year. यानी साल में 2 बार. और साल में 2 बार का मतलब हो गया every 6 months. Every 6 months RBI used to come up with the monetary policy. जिसमें RBI करेगा क्या? यही money supply बढ़ाना, घटाना, cost बढ़ाना, घटाना. This is the function of the monetary policy. Now, monetary policy was announced twice a year initially, every 6 months. But seeing the volatility in the economy, RBI decided after 2016 that we are going to come up with monetary policy 6 times a year. How much? 6 times a year. 6 times a year would mean every 2 months, right? Every 2 months. Monetary policy is changed every 2 months. Now it is a bi-monthly affair. Fine. It is a bi-monthly affair. आज के जमाने में it is a bi-monthly affair. हर 2 महीने के बाद monetary policy is changed, or monetary policy, RBI comes up with the monetary policy 6 times a year. Now, monetary policy का stance क्या होगा? What is going to be the stance of monetary policy? Now you already know monetary policy में होता क्या है? Monetary policy में you can expand the money supply. आप expand कर सकते हो money supply. You can contract the money supply. You can reduce the money supply, right? Or you can increase the cost of funds. That means you can increase the rates in the economy, or you can reduce the cost of funds. That means you can reduce the rates in the economy. This is all about the monetary policy. Money supply को expand करो, money supply को contract करो, rates बढ़वाओ, rates को कम करो, and whatnot. And this is the actual function of monetary policy. अब what is, let's suppose currently we are in July. तो आपका जो financial year है, first financial year का first month, that is the 1st April, let's suppose 1st April 2022 to 31st March 2023. अब साल का पहला महीना कौन है? अप्रैल. एंड अप्रैल में आपकी पहली मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी आएगी फॉर द मंथ ऑफ अप्रैल एंड मे. देन वी विल हैव न्यू मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी जून एंड जुलाई. मई के बाद जून एंड जुलाई. नाउ वी नो करंटली वी आर इन जुलाई. फाइन. नाउ उसके बाद आपकी मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी आ रही है अगस्त एंड सितंबर के लिए. नाउ द थिंग इज, यू वांट टू हैव एन आइडिया कि आने वाली जो मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी है अगस्त की, what is going to be the stance of RBI for that monetary policy. That means RBI आने वाली monetary policy में क्या करने वाला है? Is it going to expand the money supply? Is it going to contract it? Is it going to increase the rates? Is it going to reduce the rates? What is RBI going to do with the coming monetary policy? Now, what is going to be the stance of the monetary policy? Monetary policy का stance क्या होगा? To understand the stance of the monetary policy, you have to look at the first monetary policy of the year. तो जब आप पहली ही monetary policy को देखते हो for the financial year, you'll understand कि RBI का stance क्या है, monetary policy का stance क्या है, what is that RBI is trying to achieve. You'll understand that with the first monetary policy of the year. Now, पहली जो monetary policy है जो अप्रैल और मई के महीने में आनी है, 1st April to May, the stance of the monetary policy is actually decided after looking at the budget which is already passed, which is already tabled in the parliament in the month of February. तो फरवरी के महीने में जब बजट आता है, बजट से क्लूज लेकर RBI also decides his own monetary policy. Now February के महीने में RBI will come up with a monetary policy. Government will come up with the budget in the month of February, first working day of February. Then February के बाद you have March and you have then April, or April May you have to come up with monetary policy. And taking clues from the budget of that year, RBI decides the monetary policy, the first monetary policy of the financial year. Now this is very important. You are taking clues from the government's fiscal policy. The government's fiscal policy, RBI decides the stance of monetary policy. RBI decides the stance of monetary policy. तो RBI monetary policy का stance decide कर लेता है. Now, RBI का stance है क्या? What kind of stance? Now we understood कि stance कैसे आएगा? Taking clues from the government's fiscal policy in the budget in the month of February, they'll look at the budget and accordingly decide the stance that they have to take in their monetary policy. Now, monetary policy has different stances. Monetary policy has various stances. अब कौन सा stance है monetary policy का? Number 1, monetary policy can have a neutral stance. Monetary policy can have a neutral stance. Neutral stance, by name only suggests Neutral means the interest rates might either go up, they might either come down, they can move either way. There is no precise, defined path कि हाँ भाई interest rates बढ़ने ही वाले हैं और interest rates गिरने ही वाले हैं. There is no defined path. Now interest rates here, interest rates may either move upwards or downwards Now that is your neutral stance. Fine. तो आपके पास आपको definitely you don't have a definite perspective कि interest rates बढ़ेगा ही बढ़ेगा या कम ही होगा. Now they can move either way. Fine. After that, RBI can also have a calibrated tightening stance. We call it a calibrated tightening stance. Calibrated tightening stance. So what is the calibrated tightening stance? Calibrated tightening stance ho gaya when there is when the RBI tries to increase the rates in the economy. तो उसकी वजह से money supply थोड़ा tight हो जाता है. We also call it the tight money policy. We call it the tight money policy. Tight money policy, or we call it the dear money policy. Dear means the money will become expensive. Dear money policy. Dear money policy. And calibrated tightening में interest rates move only upwards. Move upwards. So interest rates थोड़ा ऊपर ही जाएंगे. Number three, third kind of stance is contractionary stance. Contractionary stance. What is the contractionary stance? Contractionary stance means that RBI is siphoning out of funds from the economy. RBI is taking the funds out of the economy. RBI is taking the money out of the economy. RBI wants to reduce the money supply. That is contractionary stance. We also call it contractionary monetary policy. Contractionary monetary policy. Well, Dastagir Babar, we can say it's constant only if the monetary policy does not change. If the monetary policy does not change, that means the monetary policy is constant. And if by neutral we mean you can either increase the money supply or decrease the money supply, increase the rate or decrease the rate. That means it has a neutral stance. Now, contractionary monetary policy or contractionary stance of monetary policy means siphoning out of funds from the economy. Siphoning out of funds from the economy. Of funds from the economy. तो आप economy से funds हटा रहे हो, निकाल रहे हो. You're siphoning out of funds from the economy. You're taking the funds out of the economy. ये हो गया आपका तीसरा stance. Can I clear the slide? Can I clear the slide, guys? You can write down in the chat section. Okay. Number 4, the fourth stance. The fourth stance in the of the monetary policy is hawkish stance. Hawkish stance. What is hawkish stance? Hawkish stance is exactly similar to contractionary stance. Hawkish stance is a contractionary stance. Hawkish stance is contractionary stance. It's just like a contractionary stance. But the only difference is it is that kind of contractionary stance which is aimed at controlling inflation. Which is aimed at controlling inflation. Now, we know that if there is high inflation, as we have already covered in the previous discussion, that inflation kya hai, kaise hoti hai, I've already covered that. When we have high periods of inflation, and we want to reduce the inflation, you just have to reduce the money supply. Ab money supply ko kam karo, inflation kam ho jayega. Now you have to reduce the money supply, and this is contractionary stance, because contractionary stance mein we reduce the money supply, and that contractionary stance is aimed at controlling inflation. So when a hawkish stance is taken by RBI, it means a contractionary stance only, but the aim is to control inflation. Finally, we have another important, very important stance of RBI known as the expansionary stance. Expansionary stance. It can also be known as expansionary stance ke bagair. It is also known as the accommodative stance. Accommodative stance. Or it can be known as the dovish stance. Dovish stance. Or it is also known as easy money policy. Easy money policy. Or it is known as cheap money policy. Cheap money policy. Easy money policy and cheap money policy. Okay. So expansionary stance, accommodative stance, dovish stance, easy money policy, cheap money policy. In sub ke andar, what is it that RBI does? RBI injects funds into the economy. RBI injects funds into the economy. And reduces the rate of interest. Reduces the rate of interest. Rate of interest. तो जब RBI funds induce करेगा, inject करेगा economy में, money supply will rise. That is why it is known as expansionary stance. Why? Because the money supply is expanding, money supply is increasing. Why? Because RBI is injecting funds into the economy and reducing the rate of interest. Fine. That is why we known as accommodative stance or dovish stance or easy money policy or cheap money policy. So short में cheap money policy में rates कम हो जाता है और money supply बढ़ जाता है. That is your expansionary stance. Is it clear? Is it clear? इतना clear है? All right. After that, we have another important concept. You know, when we understood recently what are the stances of monetary policy. So stances may, it can be a contraction, it can be an expansion, it can be an accommodation, it can be a calibrated tightening and all that. Now, for the sake of argument, let's take contraction and expansion. Now, contraction may RBI has to reduce the money supply. Expansion may RBI has to increase the money supply. My question is, how do you do that? My question is, how do you do that? How do you reduce or increase the money supply? Can anyone answer? How does RBI increase or decrease the money supply? Now, if anyone can answer, you can just comment and text me on the chat section. My question is, how does RBI reduce or increase the money supply? Anyone? Bank's cost of fund? Now see, there is no single answer to this question. Why? Because RBI uses a lot of tools to increase or decrease the money supply. RBI uses a lot of tools to increase or decrease the money supply. And these tools are known as tools of monetary policy. These tools are known as tools of monetary policy. Tools of monetary policy. यानी RBI के पास कौन से ऐसे tools है, कौन से ऐसे instruments है जिसको इस्तेमाल करके RBI can increase the money supply or decrease the money supply, increase the rates or decrease the rates. What are the tools at the hands of RBI जिसकी वजह से RBI can increase or decrease the money supply? Now, tools of monetary policy में when you open any a book for economy, you know that tools of monetary policy में दो important tools होते हैं. One is your quantitative tools of monetary policy. Quantitative tools of monetary policy, and the other is qualitative tools of monetary policy. Qualitative tools of monetary policy. एक आपका quantitative tools में है and the other one is qualitative tools. Now you must be wondering, sir, ये quantitative tools किस लिए है and qualitative tools किस लिए है? Can anyone answer the question? That monetary policy में what is it that we manage? We manage the size of money supply. We manage the cost of money supply. Size and cost. और ये करने के लिए RBI needs to have some tools, and tools are of two kinds, quantitative and qualitative. Can any one of you answer the question, what are quantitative and qualitative tools, and why, why is there a difference? What is the difference? Anyone? Okay, let me tell you. Now, when you talk about quantitative tools of monetary policy, quantitative tools regulates the overall money supply in the economy. The overall money supply. The overall money supply. The overall stock of money. तो पूरी इकोनॉमी के अंदर जो ओवरऑल मनी सप्लाई है, द टोटल क्वांटम ऑफ मनी सप्लाई इन द इकोनॉमी, दैट इज रेगुलेटेड बाय क्वांटिटेटिव टूल्स. तो क्वांटिटेटिव टूल्स में आरबीआई यूजेस दीज टूल्स. ये ऐसे इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स है आरबीआई के पास. इफ आरबीआई यूजेस द क्वांटिटेटिव टूल्स, आरबीआई कैन रेगुलेट द ओवरऑल मनी सप्लाई इन द इकोनॉमी. But sometimes RBI does not want to increase or decrease the overall money supply. RBI, might be that in agricultural sector, money supply, banks are not lending much money into the agricultural sector, but banks are lending huge money to the industrial sector. The industrial sector has a lot of money going into it, pulling into it, and banks are not pulling any money into the agricultural sector. Now, what does a bank want to do? What does RBI want to do? RBI wants that in the money that is going to industries, a part of it should also go to agriculture. A part of it should also go to agriculture. That means you want to reduce the money supply in industrial sector and increase the money supply in the agricultural sector. Now, आप पूरी economy में you're not regulating the entire money supply. You are just regulating the intersectoral allocation of funds. The intersectoral allocation of funds. Intersectoral allocation of funds. जहां पर आप एक सेक्टर में पैसा कम करेंगे और दूसरे सेक्टर में उसको लगाएंगे. You are allocating your funds, you are allocating the money from one sector to another sector. एक सेक्टर से दूसरे सेक्टर में आप पैसा लगा रहे हो. Fine. Intersectoral allocation of funds. That is your qualitative tool of monetary policy. Qualitative tool में you have intersectoral allocation of funds. आप एक सेक्टर से उठाकर दूसरे सेक्टर में उसको ले जाते हो. Now, for doing the intersectoral allocation of funds, RBI has different tools, and for regulating the overall money supply, RBI has different tools in the economy. Now, I will give you a list of all the quantitative and qualitative tools. उससे थोड़ा आपको एक पिक्चर बन जाएगा दिमाग में कि क्वांटिटेटिव टूल्स में क्या क्या पढ़ना है एंड क्वालिटेटिव टूल्स में क्या क्या पढ़ना है. आइडिया मैंने समझा लिया आपको. मॉनेटरी पॉलिसी का आइडिया इज regulating the size and cost of funds in the economy, and to do that RBI needs some instruments, RBI needs some tools, and RBI has the tool. RBI can regulate the overall money supply, or RBI can regulate the intersectoral allocation of fund. अगर आपको इंटरसेक्टोरल करना है उसके लिए क्वालिटेटिव टूल है. अगर ओवरऑल मनी सप्लाई को कंट्रोल करना है उसके लिए यू हैव द क्वांटिटेटिव टूल्स. नाउ let me give you a list of quantitative and qualitative tools to actually make it more comprehensive. One second. Now, when we talk about quantitative tools, we have a lot of quantitative tools. Like, for example, we begin with certain ratios. You must be aware of the cash reserve ratio, CRR, the cash reserve ratio. You also have ICRR, incremental cash reserve ratio, incremental cash reserve ratio. You also have SLR, statutory liquid ratio, statutory liquid ratio. These are some ratios that RBI uses to regulate the overall money supply. After that, you also have certain rates. Which rates are important? For example, we have the bank rate. For example, we have the liquidity adjustment facility. Liquidity adjustment facility, LAF, or LAF may you have the repo rate, the reverse repo rate, the reverse repo rate. Then you have MSF, marginal standing facility, marginal standing facility, MSF. Then you have SDF, standing deposit facility, standing deposit facility. You also have differential rate of interest, differential rate of interest. You also have zero interest rate policy, ZIRP, zero interest rate policy. You also have NIRP, negative interest rate policy, negative interest rate policy. These are some of your rates. Then you have operations, certain operations. Operations where you have open market operation, OMO. You have special open market operation, SOMO, also known as Operation Twist. You have GSAP, Government Securities Acquisition Program, Government Securities Acquisition Program, GSAP. You also have quantitative easing, You also have MSS, Market Stabilization Scheme, Under repo rate, you also have some term repos, long-term repo operations, long-term repo operations, and you have some TLTRO, targeted long-term repo operations, TLTRO. और यहाँ से operations में you have open market, SOMO, GSAP, quantitative easing, MSS, etc. You also have helicopter money. Helicopter money. Okay. These are your some of the quantitative tools that RBI has. some ratios: cash reserve ratio, incremental cash reserve ratio, statutory liquid ratio, CRR, ICRR, and SLR. Then you have rates: बैंक रेट, लिक्विडिटी एडजस्टमेंट फैसिलिटी, उसमें रेपो रेट, रिवर्स रेपो रेट है। रेपो में आज हमारे पास टर्म रेपो होता है फॉर 17, 14, 7, 14 और 21 डेज, लॉन्ग टर्म रेपो ऑपरेशंस, एंड TLTRO, टारगेटेड लॉन्ग टर्म रेपो ऑपरेशंस फॉर 1 to 3 years. उसके बाद यू हैव मार्जिनल स्टैंडिंग फैसिलिटी, स्टैंडिंग डिपॉजिट फैसिलिटी, इट वाज गिवन बाय उर्जित पटेल कमिटी. Then you have differential rate of interest, zero interest rate policy, negative interest rate policy, etc. Then you have some important operations: open market operation, that is sale, sale and purchase of government securities in the open market. This is special open market operation, jahan par we sell the short term securities and purchase the long term securities from the open market, also known as Operation Twist. GSAP, Government Securities Acquisition Program. Now there is quantitative easing, precisely used in America, United States economy. Then you have marginal standing, market stabilization scheme. It was used in demonetization, and helicopter money, generally given by Milton Friedman for US economy. Milton Friedman. Now these are some of the quantitative tools of monetary policy, जिसकी वजह से you can regulate the overall money supply. Overall money supply is सबसे regulate हो सकता है. Fine. These are some of your tools. Is it clear? Is it clear? Now let's move to qualitative tools. Let's move to qualitative tools. Qualitative tools mein, what is it that we have? Qualitative tools mein, you have the selective credit control. Selective credit control. You have the consumer credit control. Consumer credit control. You have credit ceiling, credit rationing. You have margin requirement, margin requirement. You have moral suasion, moral suasion, and you have direct action. You also have PCA framework, prompt corrective action, PCA framework. Okay. Now this completes your quantitative and qualitative tools of monetary policy. You have to study them one by one. सारी चीजें पढ़नी है. आपको लग रहा होगा it might, it is too difficult to understand, पर ये बहुत आसान है, बहुत ज्यादा आसान है. It's not a difficult thing to do. बहुत आसान है. You can do it easily. Okay. Now let me take some questions from all of you. अगर इकोनॉमी के रिलेटेड कोई क्वेश्चन है आपको, एग्जाम के रिलेटेड कोई क्वेश्चन है, एग्जाम का पैटर्न कैसा है, एनीथिंग रिलेटेड टू द यूपीएससी syllabus or previous questions, you can directly ask me. I'll be available for the questions. Come on, you have any questions, please ask. Come on, everyone. कोई सवाल है आप पूछ सकते हैं. Operation Twist. Now Chandan has a question. Operation Twist क्या है? There was this very famous dancer in United States, जिनका डांस कुछ ऐसा ऐसा हुआ करता था. He used to twist like this, and that was so famous a dance that RBI just used the term, and it was initially used by the United States Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve mein, what is it that they used to do is, in open market operation mein RBI either sells the government security. When RBI sells the government security, when you're selling something, you're taking money. Fine. RBI sells the government security to take the money out of the economy, to reduce the money supply. RBI sells the government security. But if RBI purchases the government security, when you purchase something, you give money, right? RBI injects money into the economy with the purchase of securities. So ये sale और purchase जो securities का होता है, this is open market operation. Either you can sell the securities to take the money out, or you can purchase the securities to inject the money into the economy. Fine, that is open market operation. But this operation twist is a special open market operation, jahan par RBI will sell the short-term securities and purchase the long-term securities. Now, आपको ये समझ नहीं आ रहा होगा सर, ये सेल और परचेज तो साथ साथ हो रहा है. It is happening simultaneously. You are selling the short-term securities and purchasing the long-term securities. The idea behind that is lowering the cost of borrowing in the economy. आप yield curve को impact करना चाहते थे. If for this particular topic, special open market operation, you need to have an idea about the bond yield. आपको पता होना चाहिए bond price. How is it linked with bond yield? How is that linked with interest rates? How is that linked with the stock market? ये सब पता होना चाहिए. It would take another half an hour to make you understand कि bond yield और bond price कैसे decide होता है, फिर उससे interest rate पे क्या असर पड़ती है. For this period, I'm just telling you that sale of short term and purchase of long term securities was just done to lower the cost of borrowing in the economy, and that is by impacting the yield curve on the government bonds. That was the idea behind it. There is another question, sir. Inflation, who is got benefit, debtor or lender? Now Babar has a question. Inflation से किसको फायदा होगा? Benefit किसको होगा? Debtor को या lender को? Now we know महंगाई हो रही है. For example, just 30 years back, my grandfather gave my father some 2 lakh rupees 30 years back, and now after 30 years my father is paying the same 2 lakh back to my grandfather. Now who has benefited and who has lost because of this transaction? When you give money to somebody and there is huge inflation, you're giving 1 lakh. After some years, you'll be taking 1 lakh back. Fine. Now, initially, when you had given 1 lakh, uska value bahut zyada tha. And now when you're taking it back after inflation, uska value kafi kam ho chuka hai. So lender always suffers because of inflation, and borrowers, debtors, they benefit out of inflation. Why? Because they take the money when it was valuable and they pay it back when it is less valuable. That is how debtors will benefit out of inflation. There is another question, sir. I would like to ask about inflation and repo rate. Yes, please, Kunia, you can ask the question. If anyone has any other question, you can just write the question on the app. Any other question, guys? कोई सवाल है तो please ask. Yes, Simran, you can ask the question. Economy is one of those subjects जो थोड़ा बहुत technical तो है, but it is very interesting. आपको there is this economist who has a very famous saying that because of economics you can make your lives more easier. Fine, you can make some informed decisions in your life. When precisely we talk about the concept of inflation, it is so important a concept that inflation जब आप समझते हो, आप अपनी लाइफ में बहुत अच्छे डिसीजंस लेने लगते हो. Fine. Again, there is this sunk cost fallacy in economics, जो हम जैसे बजट में पढ़ते हैं, ऐसी काफी सारी fallacies है जो हम ऑलमोस्ट अपनी लाइफ में करते रहते हैं. But with by learning economics, you actually learn a lot of things about how to balance out the how to balance out the economic aspects of your life. Give details. There's a question about give details about repo rate and inflation. Now, Kunya, this is a big topic. Inflation simply means rise in the general level of prices over a sustained period of time. जब prices बढ़ते हैं, किसके prices बढ़ते हैं? Most of the goods and services के prices जब बढ़ते हैं, उसको हम inflation कहते हैं. पर ये price बढ़ना has to be sustainable over a period of time. It should not be like आज शाम को price बढ़ गया, कल शाम को वापस उतर गया. That is not inflation. Inflation has to be sustainable over a period of time. और जब inflation sustainable होती है काफी time के लिए over most of the goods and services, तब हम उसको महंगाई inflation consider करते हैं. General inflation. So general inflation means when most of the goods and services they see a price rise and that price rise is sustainable over a period of time. That is your inflation. फिर इस inflation को कम करने के लिए repo rate is one of the rates used by RBI. Now repo rate क्या है? Repo rate में short में RBI, what does RBI do? It is the rate of interest that is charged by RBI from its clients for their short-term lending, for their short-term borrowing. That means RBI जब किसी को कर्जा देता है, when RBI is lending the money for the short term, on that loan, what is the rate of interest that RBI is charging? That rate of interest is repo rate. Precisely, repo rate is not a rate of interest, it is a rate of discount. Fine, that would take a lot of time to explain. इसमें government securities का repurchase होता है और उस पे discount दिया जाता है and that discount is a repo rate. वो अभी ऐसे समझ नहीं आएगा आपको. repo rate में आपको ready forward contract पढ़ना पड़ता है, so it will take a lot of time, won't be able to do it in the class. There is another question. Gresham's law क्या है? Gresham's law means the economy में दो किस्म का पैसा फैलता है. Precisely when there is a bad money and good money in the economy, so bad money drives out good money in the economy. You know, उसको हम कहते हैं, it is precisely relevant for economies जहाँ पर metallic money is in circulation. वहाँ पर there is this idea that bad money drives out good money. जो पुराना पैसा है, जो फ्रिक्शन की वजह से काफी उसमें मेटल का कंटेंट कम हुआ है, तो उसमें जो मेटल का कंटेंट कम हुआ है, लोग उसी को ज्यादा इस्तेमाल करेंगे and they will keep the new coins with themselves. So bad money will drive out good money. That is your Gresham's law. इसको हम money के evolution में पढ़ते हैं, because money has evolved from being a commodity money, then you had the metallic money, then the paper money, then the bank money, and then the cryptocurrencies. There is another question, what is SLR? SLR means statutory liquid ratio. Statutory liquid ratio हो गया, the bank जो भी deposit लेता है, वो सारा का सारा deposit bank के लिए is a liability, and to counter that liability, bank has to create an equal amount of assets. So अगर आप बैंक को पैसा देते हो and bank is taking the deposit, that is a liability for the bank, and bank has to give some loan and create some asset to counter that liability. But the thing is, जो बैंक पैसा लेता है, वो सब का सब उसको lend नहीं कर सकता. They cannot give all the money in the loan. Why? Because then people will lose confidence in the banking system. You're giving the money to the bank and bank is giving it to somebody else. They cannot do that. They have to keep some ratios with themselves. They have to keep some ratios with the RBI to actually meet the need and availability of funds in the economy. Now, जब बैंक के पास पैसा आता है, bank has to maintain some part of it in the form of cash with the RBI, and that is your CRR, cash reserve ratio. Then banks have to keep another important ratio with themselves, and that is your SLR. और SLR रखा जाता है तीन किस्म में. It can be in the form of cash, it can be in the form of gold, it can be in the form of government securities. But for all practical purposes, SLR is not kept in cash, it is not kept in gold, it is only kept in government securities, or government securities mein hi it is through the SLR that banks lend money to the government. Chandan Kumar has another question. Sir, ये prompt corrective action क्या है? Prompt corrective action simply means that whenever a bank surpasses a particular threshold, bank breaches a particular threshold, for example, asset quality bank की अच्छी नहीं है, NPA का level काफी ज्यादा है, bank is not maintaining the required capital adequacy ratio, bank has a huge risk weighted assets. अगर ऐसा मामला है बैंक का, bank is surpassing the guidelines, the thresholds which are set by RBI, then RBI can impose a prompt corrective action on the bank, जिस पर RBI can halt the branch expansion, RBI can, replace the controlling authority, RBI can take over the control of the bank, RBI can, can surpass the board of directors of the bank. तो उसके चक्कर में RBI can control the bank to a greater extent, and that is prompt corrective action. This was it. It was great interacting with all of you guys. I enjoyed the session. I hope you enjoyed it too. Let's conclude the session for today. You just keep on revising the economic concepts, और एक दिन आएगा जब आपको सब याद हो जाएगा. This is a very great component in UPSC preparation. आपको बहुत मजा आता है इसमें. Thank you so much, guys. Take care of yourself and your parents. We'll be meeting in the next session. God bless you. Bye-bye.